What's up, Vexheads, and welcome to episode 73 of Flagged for Content. It's the only podcast that forgot to write a joke for this part. Oh well. It's also a Flags for Good podcast, and you can head on over to flagsforgood.com/flagged for content for like the number, and pick up some sweet flags. They got new ones every day. They got a lot of No Kings ones. There's some good, interesting stuff here lately. When you do check out, use code flagged for content, again, for like the number, and you'll get yourself a sweet 10% off and help the show out as well, as I always say. Okay, I don't want to get too long on this intro. I know I always do, whether I say that or not, but this one, I had Nick Page back on from episode 1, I don't know, somewhere before we hit 10, somewhere else. And whose podcast I recently did some voice work on called Manned Mission. You may have seen it if you are a listener. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you're a listener, it was on our feed. If you're a viewer, it'll be here somewhere in the description. So you can go to Nick's YouTube page and watch it there. But Nick and I talk all about Manned Mission, the podcast, but also some flags for Mars, considering that's where this manned mission is supposedly going. So, as with any episode with Nick, it gets off the rails pretty quick in a very fun way. This one was a blast to record. They all are, but dang, yeah, I missed recording with Nick. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I had any other notes on this one. So go check out Manned Mission. Like I said, it'll be in the show notes. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into this episode with Nick Page. Vexheads, we have got a familiar face returning to the show this week. You know him from episode 1 of this very show. You know him from episode 1 of a different show. And you know him as the guest on this episode since his name was in the show. It's Nick Page!
Hello. Thanks for having me.
What's up,
back.
Nick?
Oh, not too much. Just hanging out with my buddy. About to talk about some flags, I suppose.
Oh, where's he at?
Right around the corner. Just out of frame.
Nice. Just, yeah. Perfect. Yeah, dude. So as the viewers can see behind you, and as, you know, the diehards will know already, you are in/from Ohio. How are things up there right now?
They could be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hot, I suppose, is the polite thing to say about the state of Ohio right now as a complaint.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Hey, Tennessee is not faring any better, and in fact worse on a lot of those fronts, I imagine. But
yeah, hang in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of a throwback one in a sense. I know in the first couple episodes that you were on for, anyway, actually the first few that I did in general, I would always ask the guest, like, "What are you drinking for this?" So I will start. I am drinking a Hutton and Smith Brewing Company Igneous IPA. This is local to Chattanooga, and it's actually where my wife and I had our first date, at the brewery. So
fantastic.
And what about yourself?
I am drinking the best beer of 1893, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh my!
I'm not sure anybody's improved on it since, or I guess they haven't won any awards that they want to put on the can since. But
yeah, well,
had some PBR.
It's a one and done, you know. You can't improve on perfection, as they always say.
They probably stopped giving the award out in 1894. So
probably. But dude, it's so good to see you again. This, like I said, it's not going to be a complete throwback to those first few where we did. I think do you remember the first one we did? I think it was Denmark.
It was generally like Nordic cross flags of that area.
That's right. Yeah, I remember talking about the Danish one, how like it was supposed to have like come down from on high.
Yeah.
And everything, and they received it, and then everyone kind of iterated on that.
Lots of variations.
Yeah. Well, how's your flag journey been since then? Mine's taken quite a usual path, really.
I suppose it's tough. It's been a while since then, so I'm trying to remember the exact timeline of stuff. I suppose I do remember I backed a Kickstarter for the Keystone flag that Tara Stark is a better flag for Pennsylvanians. I think
Heard of it.
that's that I was happy to receive, and I have been collecting some goofy, in my opinion, flags that I enjoy from Flags for Good, who make great products. I got one right here.
Yeah,
In the
which is
background.
that the one? Is that the one where there's like the lines around it to cut out?
Yep, little scissor icon. Cut out your
Oh,
own
okay, yep,
Ohio
I can
flag.
see it.
It's not burgy shaped. It's just rectangular, and cut it out the rest of the way.
Yeah, God, I love that. That was a limited run, but I might see if Michael can do a one-off for me or something.
I've got the
Bring it back.
American flag with the pride stripes flying out in front of the house right now.
Oh, nice.
And
yeah. Somewhere you own a flag for content, I think.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. All that pleasantness aside, let's get into the unpleasantness. Here is what's on the flagpole today, folks. We have our usual over and underrated flags, although it being Nick, I doubt there's going to be too much usual about them. We're going to talk about a new project that Nick started that he's letting me kind of tag along with. And we'll talk about some flag proposals for the planet Mars. And those last two may be related. But anyway, Nick, before we get into that, I like to ask my guests questions. And the first one I like to ask is interrogative.
Okay.
And it goes like this. What is your favorite flag? Or the one that got you into them?
Honestly, I think it is the Ohio flag. Maybe not this specific goofy one that I have behind me, but I didn't get into flags early in my life, but being from Ohio, we had a pretty unique one, and that was always a bit of a point of pride as an Ohioan, of just like, we have one of the cooler flags, in my opinion, out of all the states here in America. And it's still, I think, probably my favorite. It's the one I had the most sentimentality about, and and certainly the first one that I ever really, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Gave two shits about.
I think you and I were the ones that started that trend of swearing on this podcast. So
that's perhaps correct.
Yeah, if anyone's allowed to, it's you. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Like, I mean, obviously, well, most of the people I talk to, whether they're huge Vex heads or not, look to a local flag. If they have a good enough, like, city, or it's rarely a county unless you're like in England or something, but if you have a good enough, like, city one or something, then maybe state next. Those are the ones that connect to you the most. I know the Raleigh guys both talked about that. One of them said they still really like the Raleigh flag despite wanting to replace it and everything. or join one onto the side of it, I guess, as it were. But yeah, so any just kind of like a local type thing, or?
Yeah, it's unique. And when I was very little, it was cool that it reminded me, I was a big baseball fan growing up, and I played baseball in like Little League for a long time, and it kind of felt like a pennant, and just it was cooler to me than all the other state flags that I saw when I was 6 years old, and I developed an attachment and, like I said, sentimentality for it. I suppose it's still my favorite, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I remember I think most of my Ohio guests, I don't know how many there's been, but at least like 3 or 4 have pretty much the same answer for the same reason. I grew up in a state that, especially like when you leave Ohio and you go to states that don't have like that cool shaped flag, you gain like even more appreciation for it, I think.
Sure.
My dad being from Ohio, we used to take trips up there twice a year, once in the summer, once for Thanksgiving, and I'd see a ton of them up there. Obviously, I was more tied to the Tennessee flag, but I was like, damn if that ain't a cool flag too. Like, I do love the burgee, as it were.
Oh, I mispronounced that earlier. My mistake.
Well, I don't know. I honestly, that's one of the ones that I've seen written more than, like, you might be right.
Sure.
I have no idea. Anyway, all right, cool. So I'm assuming that in some sense of the words, you have an underrated flag and an overrated flag.
Sure. Which would you prefer?
And honestly, whatever fits the weird narrative that you're probably going to try and weave with them.
All right. Overrated flag. Cooper flag. I know the Hawks are probably going to be taking him first overall tonight in the draft, but I do think that Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper both are going to have better careers. I think people are sleeping on these Rutgers guards. I know Duke's a bit more blue blood, but I think Cooper Flag is severely overrated. That's my overrated flag for today, and it's topical. I don't know when this is coming out, but the draft is tonight, so.
Oh yeah, this is coming out like I'm gonna shoot for a quick turnaround on this one, so not too much after that. That is about the answer I expected. Somehow I expected I would know at least a single thing about what you're talking about. And I guess I do, and it's sports, but I don't even know what sport we're talking about right now.
It's basketball. He's
Okay,
a college basketball player. The NBA Finals ended a few days ago, and the draft is tonight.
I should have known what you're saying. Duke, blue blood, yeah, all that stuff. I should have known that. It's not like anybody's excited for Duke football players or anything. So, all right, so that's your overrated flag.
Yes.
All right, we'll see how that shakes out for him. Do you have any semblance of an underrated flag?
I do. You may have to look this one up. I don't know how in production it is, but the Boognish flag. That's Boognish.
Wait, are you about to give me a real answer, or am I about to find out?
It's a half real answer. Some good friends of mine, Eric and Heather, they fly a Boognish flag off the front of their house, and I always love when I round the corner and I see it. I know I'm going to have a great evening, and I think they deserve more appreciation than they get. That's also it's the symbol for the band Ween, the Boognish. That is the demon god that looks over them, I suppose.
Yeah. So
it's a cool little logo that they have flying on a flag in front of their house, and I just wanted to show some appreciation for them, and I do love the band Ween as well. So it's a twofer. It needs more appreciation. The Boognish flag that flies on my friend's house.
Absolutely. And you got to get your friends to listen to this too, then.
We'll see.
kind of pump those numbers. You got to get the band Ween to listen to this as well. You got some homework, man.
All right.
Nah.
That's going to be tougher for sure.
I have not... I never really got into Ween. I never really didn't, but I just never heard much of them. I have seen this logo plenty. But I'm gonna put you through what I put most guests through, which is explain this flag visually for the listeners. Now, you basically did, but explain the logo that's at the middle of it, if you will.
It's a smiley face with some jagged, either spiky hair, or I don't know the exact etymology of it. I do believe it was just a drawing that they liked to do when they were younger, the people that started Ween, and they made up a backstory about it, or perhaps it's true, and there is a demon god that looks like that I have not personally seen, but it's a goofy punk rocky looking smiley face. Maybe those are sunbeams. I don't know exactly what the spikiness around the upper half of it is, but it's I should be looking at it right now. I could describe it better than trying to do it from memory, but it's a goofy smiley face that Ween uses on an awful lot of their own promotional stuff that I've seen for a long time.
Yeah, fair enough. Did that help, listener? You can once you pull over, once you're safely parked, maybe even at a red light. Well, no, don't look up Boognish, and you'll get it.
You'll find it.
Or just Ween logo, although same character count. Space though. Anyway,
one's easier to remember, perhaps.
Yeah. You're lucky I didn't make you physically describe the overrated one. All right, man. Now physically describe
6'8", white guy. I don't actually know how tall he is, but he's very tall, and people think he's good at basketball. And they're probably right. I don't watch much college basketball. I just needed to have an overrated flag, and that's
exactly
the first one that I thought of on the news today.
And it's not going to be either proven right or wrong until the season actually starts. So, this is just the draft. So.
Send that man to the G League. Oh, sorry.
Right. All right, man. So, that was your favorite overrated, underrated. all, as we mentioned, a little
And
non-traditional,
topical,
all very topic. Well,
relevant for today.
all very topical and relevant for today. Speaking of, I always ask my guests for those that have not been one, basically, what flags they would like for me to put up in my background. So when I asked Nick, he told me these three: Uganda, the UN. Well, he told me a couple that I didn't have, but I think we landed on the best three regardless. Uganda, the UN, and we've got New York City, the small version right up here. Yeah, so did you want to go over why you requested those?
Well, again, topical for today, and hopefully this is out soon enough that it still is.
It should be.
Specifically, New York City and the Uganda flag is a reference to Zoran Mamdani winning the mayoral primary for the Democratic Party in New York City last night.
Yep.
He was born in Uganda, I believe, moved here at 7 or 8 years old, I believe.
Something like
is
that.
33 now, I think, and maybe the next mayor of New York City, a city that has just slightly under the population of the entire state of Ohio. I don't know if there's fewer people in Tennessee. There might be more people in New York City than the entire state of Tennessee, for all I know.
I think so, because you have more electoral votes than we do. So yeah, you in Ohio.
But he seems like a cool guy, and I was happy to see him beat Andrew Cuomo specifically. There were a lot of candidates. That was my least favorite of them. Regardless, I thought it would be fitting to put the flag of where Mr. Mamdani was born, and then also where he resides now, and maybe leading soon. Best of luck to him. He seems like he's got, in my opinion, some fun ideas that I hope are able to be implemented, and see if they help the people there, and if that works, the grand experiment of America style, that other cities and states maybe also consider similar policies to help their people.
Yeah. I think I can't speak for all the listeners and viewers, but I can speak for myself, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. We here at Flag for Content echo that sentiment. All right. So also the UN one.
Yes, I did also recommend that, just because, again, topical. There is a meeting of the NATO member nations. Oh, I did say NATO. That is UN.
You did say NATO, and I do not have the NATO flag. Fuck.
Okay.
Well, you know
I
what?
should have recognized it.
No, I should have recognized it. I don't have the NATO flag, so in my head I was like, go down and get that.
Cut it out.
Blue flag that's got that thing in the middle that isn't a state flag.
I do, like, okay, hey, it's relevant to New York, I suppose. I also hope that the United Nations is able to do good for the world. That's, obviously their mandate, what they're trying to do, and it's not always easy. I don't want to get too in the weeds politically on your show, but
we don't have to. But is there a specific reason you wanted the NATO one?
There's a meeting of the NATO member nations right now in the news. It's today, I believe, is that the meeting. That
I don't mind
our
saying
government
that
is
we are
with other NATO member
recording
nations.
this on June 25th. So, yep. Some important stuff going on at NATO, which is definitely the flag I have in my background right now.
Right.
For the listeners.
Uh-huh.
And for the viewers.
I ran over to Andy's and switched it.
Green screen. Yeah. It's just a short jaunt.
Yep.
All right, Nick. Well, this chaotic part one needs to be put down, I think.
Okay.
And give birth to an even better part two. When we do get back from this ad break, Nick and I are going to be talking about Manned Mission, which a lot of you will have seen, or heard anyway, rather, on our feed. Yeah, that's an exciting new podcast that he's been writing that I'm quote unquote co-starring in. Anyway, we'll get to all that on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. We'll see you in a sec. All right, and we are back with part 2, more with Nick Page. And as people probably picked up from the intro, we're going to be getting into some weird flag proposals for Mars. And I did promise to explain why. What I didn't tell them is I was going to basically have you explain why. But so I will give the brief rundown. But Nick has produced a brand new scripted show, limited series. You can explain it better as soon as I start letting you talk again. Called Manned Mission, that is co-starring myself and our friend Devin, and your voice, your friend's voice. Anyway, tell us a little bit about what is Manned Mission, the podcast.
Sure. Well, I hate to correct you right off the jump, but it is pronounced Manned Mission.
That's right.
Okay,
that's
sorry
right.
about that.
No, you're good.
Had to play with my little pedals.
Hmm?
So Manned Mission, I could probably talk about this too much because it has been in my brain for at least 15 years at this point.
Okay.
My very good friend since high school, Zach Holloway, and I originally co-wrote it as a cartoon series, and we even tried to film in a basement, some of us acting it out. We were planning to rotoscope it. We thought that would be the easiest way.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's so much work to try to make a cartoon with just one or two people. I don't know how Matt Parker and Trey Stone ever did it, but they did, obviously.
It's way easier to make
Ween, that's a South Park. They were in Chef Aid. All right, anyway. So we did try to make it as a cartoon, back in like 2006 or something.
Right.
And it didn't work.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking like, all right, 2006 is telling me like Flash animation type or...
Well,
you did say rotoscoping, so a little bit.
I did pivot
advanced, but...
when I realized the cartoon was out of my scope, and I tried to turn it into a video game.
Okay.
Because I loved point-and-click adventure games, and I thought, in a cartoon, if there's just 2 minutes of people walking down a hallway talking, you gotta animate that pretty well, or people will hate it. But if it was a video game, it could be a looped animation, and people will kind of forgive it a little bit. And even that was still too much visual art, and the scope was too big to try to do it as a video game. And back around early 2020, I realized that I am reasonably proficient with audio, and maybe it could be done as a podcast rather than a cartoon show or a video game. And so,
editor's note: Nick is very proficient at audio, and then some.
So anyway, Zach and I
asked for it.
Zach and I got together, and we started to go through our old scripts that were very old at that point, and attempt to reconsider how the show would. There was a lot of visual gags as a cartoon. That's half the point. So we had to kind of rethink not just the style of the show, but the general scope of it. Times had changed. There's some stuff that I thought we were brilliant about, almost 20 years ago when we were originally brainstorming and writing this, such that if you've listened to the pilot episode, it's not a governmental space mission. That I should just actually first, this is a podcast that is a fictional narrative about two people on the first manned space flight to Mars. While they are on that mission to Mars, they are making a podcast to beam back to Earth about the mission. Ostensibly to support and fundraise for the mission. But back to what I was saying, it's not a government that's running the mission. It's a billionaire who has his own space program. And
where'd you get that idea?
Well, that was just something that we thought was very funny to consider 20 years ago. And now it's just unfortunately how all of our space stuff is, I guess, between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And doesn't Richard Branson have a space program too?
Probably.
It
Virgin
seems like
Virgin
something. Galactic, I think.
Virgin Galactic, yeah.
And there's probably more that I'm forgetting about, and I don't like it. I don't want.
Again, not to get political. No, I'm just kidding.
I do want to just slightly get political now.
No, and we're totally. This is the place for it.
NASA was one of the like few things during tougher times in this particular country that I could still feel patriotic about. And it seems like we as a country have decided to commercialize and outsource what NASA has historically done, and I don't like it. So in our fiction from forever ago, and it lasted until the current day, it's not funny anymore. It's just reflective of what's we imagined that it was an Amazon type company. It wasn't, we named the character Bill because they're a billionaire and we're not very creative. But actually, that's not true. We have a lot of naming characters in ways that are supposed to indicate their personalities or place in the story. But there's a word for when you do that, and I am not smart enough to remember
Nominative
what it is.
Determinism?
Yeah, something like that, probably.
That might be related, but yeah.
So, as we were going back and rehashing this, there was stuff that we kind of just had to keep. And it's like, well, this isn't really a joke anymore, but at least we can try to make jokes out of how it's reality now, but that's still messed up.
So the general narrative of it is there are two pilots that are flying on a manned mission, as the title tells you, to Mars. One of them, at a certain point, decides, I want to create a podcast out of all of this. The other one kind of reluctantly goes along. At least that's where we are as of now.
Well,
as of episode
1. I maybe could have explained it in the beginning of the script a little bit. It's more that the commander of the mission, who's in charge, already knows that they're making a podcast, and the ship, it's actually doing it automatically. They don't have a choice in the matter. The subordinate, who's the only other person but on the ship, they're not in charge, played excellently by Andy here. They are unhappy to be surprised right before liftoff with the information that, hey, we're actually making a podcast, and every single part of your existence on this spaceship for the next however long this will take, probably years, is being recorded. So
yeah. And I think
but in the fiction, the ship's computer is what's capturing everything, and essentially AI editing it together to send back to Earth.
And what
it's
did
not
you
anybody
name
on the ship that's sitting down and deciding what's going to be on the show and not. It's all out of their hands and against their will. The captain's very excited about it, the commander, I should say, and the subordinate is less excited.
Yes, and I think I did a great job of portraying how unexcited my character was.
Absolutely, you and Devin were both fantastic, as was our friends Adam and Pete, who also lent their voices to that pilot episode. And assuming that we make any more, we'll for sure be back for more.
Yeah, and we will, because I'll make sure that we do.
Okay.
Because there's a couple parts I was unhappy with, and I just want to do better in episode 2.
Okay.
So sue me.
You can cut this out if you'd like, but did you read the script I sent you of episode 2?
No, not yet.
That's fine. So the show as a podcast it was planned as 6 episodes. I have a story arc and an outline.
A limited series.
Yeah, most of the scripts were written and finished, and at a certain point, I realized, much like the cartoon or the video game, that it is not just a lot of work, more manageable work that I can do, but it required more help from other people as well, and more commitment from other people.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I was making a cartoon, I could have, tried to Mel blank and throw my voice into every character and done it all myself, assuming I was able to draw everything. I just couldn't draw it. But I really, that was the biggest hindrance to making the podcast for me, was I need to get 6 other people on board that are willing to put in a lot of work without
it's
being
always
paid.
easy. It's like how easy it is to schedule a D&D game or something like that. Just easy shit like this. Need to get more people on board. Get I don't know, more human overhead here, basically.
It's tough.
It's
tough,
and just go.
And I feel guilty that I can't exactly compensate anybody for all of the work that they are doing. Which is why at this point, more or less, there hasn't been another episode made. I'm not opposed to it. There are scripts ready to go. It's just that I don't know. There's a plot point in the very first episode where, during making a theme song for the show, they say repeatedly, "We'll do more if we can figure out a way to get paid." And I'm not saying the show won't ever get finished unless people give me a bunch of money. But it is very difficult to commit not just a lot of my time, but a lot of other people's time.
Yeah.
To something that maybe there's no audience for.
This is the part of the YouTube where I put your Cash App, your Venmo, all that stuff up at the bottom.
Don't have any of those. You have to go slide cash into my mailbox.
It's true. It's true, folks. First and whatever episode he was on, I drove all the way up to Columbus. I could have done it in one trip. I didn't know I was going to have him on like 3 episodes later. Had to do it again. Sucked. Columbus is no.
I do hope that we make more. Just a peek behind the curtain, perhaps.
Sure.
I put it up on YouTube, the first episode. I figured rather than trying to make and manage an RSS feed and all of the different things that go along with that, that I would put it on my own personal YouTube channel. I considered making one specifically for the show, but it's on my own personal YouTube channel. And after the first 24 hours of it being up, I do believe it had 8 views for a total of 14 minutes. And it is a 28-minute long episode. So I was like, oh, everybody that checked it out made it about 2 minutes in. And, that doesn't really make me feel like anybody wants me to make a second episode.
Trust me, as someone who looks at those numbers a lot, they lie to you.
If that's too personal or too depressing.
I mean, if you're the one that said it, you must be comfortable with it being on air, and I totally
am.
But I will say,
I'm very proud of how it turned out.
First off, yes. Secondly, as you know, and as I mentioned, I did put it in the audio feed for this show, and it got I couldn't tell you an exact number, although I do think I sent you some screenshots. It got a lot of listens, and honestly, that's true of the show, my show in general. The numbers that you can see on YouTube, I'm not going to say in every case, but usually you can probably double them for the audio. Yours, you can more than double that 8. It was a lot more than 16. But it actually, I don't know, it was, I think I had released an episode the week before that, then that one, and then one not too long after, the one with Carlos. And it's been on a good, not even a plateau, an upward moving thing. Right, and yours was in the middle of, or Manned Mission was in the middle of that. Okay. So, yeah, I'm definitely down to record a second episode. I will try, and hopefully we don't have to sing again.
Nope. That's all done.
Because, Lord knows I'm not a singer.
Actually, I might need you to do it one more time, but
that's okay. That's all right. I know I screwed it up, but I was going to say the audience knows that I'm not a singer, which is why I have handily replaced the intro to this episode with Nick's. So, you're welcome, everyone. But all right, Nick. So I think kind of off of that, we can touch on some more manned mission stuff later.
Sure.
But we wanted to get into some fictional, well, I guess they're all fictional, some proposed flags of Mars today. And to that end, we both looked up a few. There's a surprisingly robust list of them on the Vexillology wiki. And I think let's see. I think the first one I was going to go over, if you don't mind me starting.
Please.
Is this flag of Mars that was proposed by Thomas O. Paine. And that's not O apostrophe, that is O dot, just to distinguish him from the one we all know and have strong feelings for. Anyway, so Thomas O. Paine's design, are you looking at it, or do you know which one I'm talking about on your screen?
I do, yes.
Yeah, the mostly yellow field. Yeah. Actually, I'll describe this to the listeners. It is a mostly yellow field. Bottom left, so like hoist side bottom. It has a blue, I guess, yeah, a quarter of a circle, with a white fimbriation, which doesn't do much to help it on the yellow, but whatever. At the very middle is more or less a red circle, although the top and bottom have kind of like a little like lemon slice out of them that's white, and a little arrow that's going diagonally up toward the fly side that's pointing at a white star, again on that yellow background, not doing itself many favors. Um, I'll start with my thoughts on this one. It's fucking weird. It's clunky. The description, the words that are next to it describe accurately what they were going for, but I don't think the image does. This to me doesn't really say anything other than the middle part looks like it looks like a kid's like project or something, like a school project. The middle looks a little bit like an apple for teacher, with like maybe a bite taken off on the top and sides. And like the blue thing and the stars seem like afterthoughts. It's supposed to, I'll just give the very briefly, the description of what it's supposed to represent is there's Earth, that blue orb down at the bottom on hoist side, then Mars, then the arrow off of Mars points toward the stars, and also the Mars sign is the one you're thinking of as the sign for like the male sign.
Right.
The circle and the arrow going up like diagonally to the viewer's top right.
Relative to, it's a very small arrow relative on this particular
that too
flag.
That too. It's unsatisfying as a flag or just a fucking image, really.
I like the idea. I also, it's supposed to be Mars in the center, the red circle, and I like the idea of are those supposed to be frozen water at the top and the bottom? Is that supposed to be like a polar cap?
Oh, it probably is. Yeah, it probably is.
I don't, I'm not sure if any water has been discovered on Mars, and I haven't looked at a picture lately to see if they have a white top and bottom. I got to get my telescope out, which I thought was in this room, but it's in my basement now, actually.
No, we got time. We'll take. No, I'm just kidding.
I like what this flag is trying to represent.
Yeah.
But it does confuse me because when I first looked at it without reading a description, I very clearly thought that's supposed to be Earth and our atmosphere, the blue, quarter of a circle with a little white around it. And obviously Mars. I did not get the Mars symbol with the arrow. And my thought process was actually that star was supposed to represent our sun. The description I'm reading it says that it's supposed to represent that Mars is not our destination. It's a waypoint on our way further out into the stars, which is a good concept. But I kept thinking about, and this I don't believe was ever a flag. As a space nerd, I don't know if you could have guessed that from me writing 3 different versions of a single show about space, but
Never.
I was reminded a lot of the Carl Sagan diagram that's on the Voyager probes. Are you familiar with those at all?
Oh Lord, yes, but I'm gonna need a visual reminder.
It's I actually have it on a shirt. I don't know if there's anybody that makes it on a flag, but it's a rough drawing of a nude man and a woman that shows what we look like, as well as a diagram of, I believe, all of the like pulsars that are within the Milky Way, so that from an outside observer you could pinpoint amongst those clusters of blinking stars as they orbit each other, regardless where Earth is. It was a representation, and there's also a drawing of the probe itself that is relative to the size of the humans, I believe. It was intended to be a message to a picture message that did not use words or language to convey like if any intelligent life finds this probe, here's a picture of the probe next to to scale what the people that sent it out look like, and then where in the local part of the universe it originated from. And I think it's a really cool image that conveys a lot of information without using any. Flags aren't supposed to have any words on them, and they're supposed to convey a lot of information too. This maybe would not make a good flag, but it is a cool image that I've enjoyed for, I suppose, all of my life that I've been aware of its existence. The Voyager probes were launched before I was born, I believe.
Yeah.
And this Flag of Mars by Thomas O. Paine, third administrator of NASA, I do believe it says. It reminds me a lot of trying to convey some information about the actual people that created it more than the thing itself. I don't think this represents Mars. Obviously, it represents
Nick,
humanity on Earth and our ambitions.
Yeah, that was.
And it reminded me of that a lot.
Not have put that in a better way. Yeah. Enough said. Also, yeah, I have been looking at that Carl Sagan since you brought up Sagan and the images.
Did I forget anything? There's more on it, I think, perhaps.
No, well, there's whatever. It like shows like a little bit of a diagram where like we're the third dot, and that's where this thing comes from, etc.
It does have the planets and the sun,
and it's got like there's the golden record with it too that like actually is presumably playable, right? But I forget, like it's like got the sounds of like all or not all, but like a lot of wildlife or like people talking or.
I have a copy of it on my vinyl shelf.
Nice.
There's a lot of stuff. It includes greetings from like every spoken language on Earth that like they were able to collect from all over the world. People, more or less saying hello and hope you're well and such in their native tongues. And yes, sounds of different animals and wildlife, but I believe also weather. It was, and I do believe also some songs and other. I think you can also decode different visual artworks off of it based on.
Hell yeah!
It's a really cool.
Is Stairway on there?
I don't know for a fact, but I bet it. No, I don't think it is. But I
think we can. Okay.
It's the golden record that was on the Voyager probes is a really cool artifact. That
it is.
I
don't. Go and look it up before Nick talks for 10 more minutes about it.
Yeah.
No. Love you, Nick. Which one would you like to go over next? I picked that one, I think, as a good starting point, but you've got the same ones as me.
I'll go ahead and jump down because it's the only one that I think I have anything halfway coherent to say about it, to the International Flag of Mars by Mario Mimoso.
Yes. And we have that. I sent you the.
I do not know anything about this. I've only looked at the image and then the accreditation to the person that created it. But it is an orange field with a number of different circles intersecting with each other and overlapping each other. I don't know what they represent, but I will say it reminds me a lot of the. I think it's is it called the International Flag of Earth that was proposed, and I have bought from Flags for Good. They stock that as well, and it reminded me a lot of a Mars-colored version of that. The Earth one is blue, this one is orange. I don't know if they have the same author. Maybe Mario Mimoso created both. But it reminded me a lot of that. Of that International Flag of Earth, which was blue with different circles representing each continent, I believe.
Yes. Okay, that's what I was trying to pull up here. I do think it's funny, like if you go to the like the website for flagofplanetearth.com, which is their like official website for the one that's related to this. It uses, and I don't know how stock of an image this is, but the same exact image of like the female black astronaut holding the helmet with the like arm patch over here. The exact same image as the one that they've got on the International Flag of Mars one, which makes sense because like if it's an image people know enough, sure, just like swap like this onto there and see how it works. Trying to remember, I know. Okay, yeah. Oh man, the thing by Flags for Good is like the third thing down on the flagofplanetearth.com website, but I can't remember what you said, 7 continents, but I'm trying to remember what the ones for Mars could be. Because obviously
Yeah,
they don't have continents. They got
I've counted. It's 8 smaller circles that are slightly interlinked in their own larger circle. It's not quite Olympic rings style of a layout. They are,
yeah, and
making
then
a complete circle. And then there is a larger circle that's more or less going through the center of each of the 8 circles, and a smaller circle that is connected to the other 8 at their extreme end in the middle of the larger one. It does look like a bit of a drawing of a flower of some kind, perhaps, almost.
yeah,
I
it's
don't know what
okay.
any of it represents, but it
Me
reminded
and-
me a lot of the flag of Earth. So I picked that one when you asked me which one to talk about.
No, yeah, I did want to make sure and touch on this one for sure. The like, can you see the 3 images below the like main flag image on that Behance.net, the Mars one, where it's got like
That's
the
not the site I
astronaut
was
with
on. I'll pull it up.
I was gonna say the only
Yep.
thing I can think of that it means is not like 10 of anything necessarily, other than it does mimic the kind of like pod layout that they have as an image underneath that, where there's like a central pod that I imagine, I don't know, houses most of the life support and X, Y, and Z. And then like these like other ones out there that probably are for like some kind of farming or research purposes, or I'm talking completely out of my ass right now. But it does look like how they are, at least in this author's mind, planning on setting up a Martian colony.
That could very much look like
Infrastructure-wise.
a spaceship from the top with all of its engines, boosters, or a colony of space pods that are interconnected to make a community. I
Yeah.
like both of those ideas. I do see on this website, now that I have it open, that it does say, and this can correct something that I said earlier, the flag has been designed in the style of Oscar Pernefeldt's proposal for the international flag of planet Earth. So I was right.
Mhm.
It was very similar, but it was not the same person who made it. I said I didn't know if it was. It's not. Shout out to Oscar Pernefeldt.
Oh yeah, in the style of. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Out of the 2, this one's definitely better than the one I described. All right, I'm gonna go to. Let's see. Let's do one more and then go to commercial break. I think okay. Let's go ahead and do the Pascal Lee one. I'm sure you have that up on at least a screen of yours or
Sure.
somewhere on there. But for listeners, it is the one that actually the colors have been revised to be a little bit lighter, but it is, broadly speaking, on the hoist side, it's kind of like a dark red. Think of Martian Earth or Martian ground, I guess.
Right.
And then in the middle, it is a dark green. On the fly side, it is a dark blue. And so it's a tricolor, like looks, it could be yeah, like if the green were white, and well, that's a lot of work. But it's a tricolor. Red, green, blue, and it's supposed to represent terraforming Mars. So it goes from Martian red to green to blue. As in, plant and water life, I guess. Yeah, represent the transformation of Mars from a lifeless planet to one teeming with life. As inspired by Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy of novels. I did not know it was inspired by novels somehow. But there's not a whole lot of other design notes to go into. That's pretty much it.
It makes me think of
this?
It makes me think of pixels as also a computer nerd, just because RGB coloring and the way that if you zoom in really close on a screen, it's actually very, very small red, green, and blue lights that are shining at different intensities to make what you see as the image on your computer or television screen.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, it's kind of all I can see.
I've got the Radiohead song Videotape stuck in my head now, which is also not about the Martian flag, but about the, watching something in red, blue, green, red, blue, green.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this one's done you a solid.
Yeah.
This one's
it's unremarkable, but it does elicit feelings in me in the same. Well, it's not unremarkable. I apologize, Pascal Lee. That was flippant of me to say. I really enjoyed learning just now that it is the process of terraforming that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I was gonna guess that kind of not exactly red, not exactly orange on the fly side. Did I get that right? No, the hoist side was
Nice.
to represent Mars, but I was not positive what the rest was supposed to be for. But it makes complete sense now that you've explained it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still not particularly inspiring. And now that I think of that and am, reading, okay, so
they should do the colors one twice and also put a cool bird in the middle of them. Like
oh
that
yeah,
flag you have.
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
Right.
Why don't no. That's gonna be a really, really stretch of a pun that I was about to make. So I'm not gonna do that. But I will say the ones that I've brought up, that Thomas O. Paine one and this Pascal Lee one, both designed. So Thomas O. Paine, third admin of NASA, 1984. Pascal Lee, a former NASA research engineer.
Okay.
So you know,
got cred.
Yes. But the listeners can, a lot of the listeners are noting right now that, okay, neither of these guys was anywhere near graphic design or heraldry or, anything that really goes into informing good flag design typically. This is kind of like, Tampa, Florida's flag was made by an accountant. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can tell that like some guy that deals with spreadsheets made this. Like totally. These look like some engineer or, an admin or something made them. Anyway, we have a couple more flags to get into. We've got a little bit more after that and a surprise news segment. So come back after the break. And Nick doesn't even know what it is, honestly. Come back after the break and check all that out. We will see you then. All right, Vexheads, thanks for sticking around. We are back with part 3. There's one more flag I wanted to go over. Thank you, Nick. There's a proposal by Calder, Hansen. And I don't know if you have this up on your screen. It's one of the ones I sent you in Discord, but it's called the New and Unofficial, in parentheses, Flag of Mars. And I'll just really quick describe this one. Basically, it is a white field with a orangish red chevron facing upwards. Think of Glamorgan in Wales, but there's only one of them. Think of a lot of, I don't know, this does remind me of some kind of like English Welsh heraldry. And I'm sure it does you too, Nick.
I can see that,
yeah. But it's not a bad design. I don't hate it as a design. I don't know if it quite fits Mars. But I'll read a few kind of quick blurbs from their site, which, for the viewers, listeners, is flagofmars.com. Simple as that. They got to that domain, and they are sitting on it. So, why does Mars need a flag? There are many plans to colonize Mars soon, possibly within the next decade. If there is a colony, it'll need a flag, and even if there isn't, a flag will be important as a way to represent the exploration and or colonization of Mars. So, what does it represent? I already went into the design, what they're calling the red, kind of red-orange, but yeah, rusty, I guess, color.
Yeah.
Represents, well, one, the color of Martian soil. So whatever color you were picturing, just picture that. And the bravery of humanity in going to Mars. Okay, sure, on that one. The white represents the ice caps of Mars, an important source of water for future human, it says. I guess Matt Damon, just the one. And our peaceful intentions for the exploration of Mars. Not really sure who we would declare war on. Yeah, right.
I gave the collar pull of confusion because I was like, even if there's nobody there, I'm not sure us going is going to be peaceful.
Well, then that too. If there's nobody to declare war on, we will find a way. Damn it. Yeah. And then the chevron shape represents the mountains of Mars, especially Olympus Mons, the tallest mountain in the solar system, in case you didn't know. And the upward pointing arrow symbolizing humanity's journey into space. Now, that makes sense to me. Oh, I can appreciate a good aspect ratio.
I love this.
Yeah, the aspect ratio, height to width of the flag, 17 to 32 height to width, is almost exactly the ratio of an Earth year to a Mars year. That is cool. That is freaking cool.
That, for sure.
Yeah, that's something that, like, my personal flag, we deal with, or it's less the aspect ratio than the proportions of colors, but I do love like a kind of almost hidden little math thing like that.
I love math. I do love that. I do think, much like the water for future human, that this is a typo slightly, I think.
Could be. What am I missing?
The ratio of an Earth year to a Mars year would not be 17 to 32. It would be 32 to 17, would it not? We are closer to the sun, and therefore we orbit it more times each time we go around. It takes Mars longer to go around the sun.
Let me ask my very eager mother, who just served us 9 nothings anymore.
I'm just saying, I think the orbital period of Mercury is like 88 days or something, and it's 365 and a quarter, give or take, for Earth. Okay. I don't know the number for Mars, but it's not. It doesn't go around the sun faster than the Earth. So it would be 17. It says the ratio of years on Earth to the ratio of years on Mars, and I think they just got the numbers backwards. I'm pretty sure it takes 32 Earth years to equal 17 Mars orbits, if that makes sense. I could be wrong.
That does make sense, but I was kind of against you until you explained it at the very last. And I was like, oh, yeah. It does take 17 of those to make the... Yeah, okay, right.
It does say height, width, 17, 32. And that's right.
It does say
17 that. Units tall for every 32 units wide. So then when it also says it's the ratio of Earth years to Mars years, I think that they actually just swap those two.
Yeah.
I think it's Mars years to Earth years.
With height, yeah. I mean, who cares?
Well,
who cares? Half the people pronounce it as height anyway. So, no, but I think we both do appreciate the detail.
They won't see us waving from such great Mars. Oh,
we can't go back into that. That was over the commercial break. Damn, I should just we don't have to go into a bonus episode. I'll just release what we said during the commercial break.
Sorry.
No, you're right. I won't release any of this. This site, the same thing, like right under that, it does go down to say, why use this flag instead of another that already exists? And then it has that one designed by Pascal, which, as a reminder, is that like rusty red orange, then the green, then the blue. It is using his older variation with the more dulled colors, which he has since updated, but point taken. Says there's 4 main reasons that the new one is better than that one. 1, it stands out from other flags. I'll give him that. Like, what do you think on that one? Like, the Pascal Lee's one is a tricolor. It's a bit different than most Earth tricolors. And well, actually, you know what? The more I think about it, I've got an opinion on this. I don't know that a tricolor is that much different than a chevron as far as things that are recognizable from Earth. Like from Earth, like flags and heraldry.
I completely agree.
Now, the more that I think about it.
This doesn't feel all that different than the Nordic crosses we went over in episode 1, to be honest. Like, especially the ones that were just 2-color.
Like iterations, yeah.
Yeah. I know the shape of the line is different, but it's... I would say that they're both equally, in terms of their design, normal.
I think so too. Like, I guess the point that they're trying to make is that the triband, more national flags have a triband, but that chevron is not unknown to like European flags of like subdivisions and heraldry and things. It's not, you know.
It strikes me as more martial than Martian. I picture that. There we go. Yeah, I picture that, you know, on the uniform of somebody in the military. That doesn't strike me as alien or otherworldly.
No. Me neither. We'll go to the second point. The color values provide contrast. Now, I will absolutely give them this one. And just to sum up, it says common design principles to use both light and dark colors rather than only light or only dark. Principles supported by NAVA, which says contrast is important. Use light colors on dark and vice versa. And then says Lee's flag only uses dark colors of a similar value, not providing much contrast. The new flag uses a dark color, red, on a light color, white, resulting in a contrast that enlivens it and draws one's eye. Yeah, that's true. I will say, like, to Lee's credit, he has since lightened those colors. Like,
Sure.
you can even just check the Wikipedia. Seems like they might be nitpicking with the old one here, but I don't love the new one either. So, or the new Lee one. I mean, what do you think as far as on that point? I think they're right on that point. I'll give it to them.
I can't, aside from saying it doesn't seem unfamiliar to me, I still kind of harken back to the Pascal Lee flag. Reminds me a bit of like the subpixels on a display of a computer or a television.
It's hard to get past.
It strikes me, if anybody's ever seen, under a microscope, what it is that makes your phone look like the way it does. It's red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, like it's just a bunch of strips of that next to each other. It looks like that flag, kind of.
Like, yeah.
I think the order is slightly different. But
when I was like, you're maybe a couple years older, but like growing up in the early to mid 90s, like my parents told me I would get blind if I sat too close to the TV. So I was like all about testing that theory. I'd be like, all right, let's find out. So I got as close to it as possible. And yeah, the little diodes do look, or I don't even know if they're called diodes back then or now, but looked about like that. But that was back when I was having to plug my Super Nintendo into the back with like an RF adapter and then had to set it to channel 3 and all that stuff. Like, that's the age of that TV.
I searched for it, and this is, it is red, green, blue, red, green, blue. I guess it's flipped in this video right now, but it's
only
the same
on
order.
your...
That's fair. And the listeners can't see what I just held up to the camera, but it is the same order. It goes red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, blue, just all the way across.
Very similar.
So it is very strikingly similar to Pascal Lee's flag of Mars.
Pascal Lee's wager. Pascal Lee was wagering on this flag and he fucked up. All right, 3.
Pascal Lee to kill a Martian bird. Oh, sorry.
This is one of my more unhinged episodes. You know what? I'm just going to have this as a bonus or something. I don't know. Who knows? Point 3. It represents more. The new flag represents multiple aspects of Mars itself and humanity's relationship with Mars. And this actually goes really big to your point, not really about Lee's flag, but about that first one that we looked at from Thomas O. Paine. Yeah. But it represents multiple aspects of Mars itself and of humanity's relationship with Mars. Lee's flag represents just one thing, the process of terraforming Mars. I think a flag should ideally represent multiple aspects of whatever it's for. I also think the flag of Mars should, at least in part, represent Mars in its natural state rather than what humans want to change it into. And then in parentheses, it does say Pascal Lee might agree. I think, as he says, he is not actually a big fan of terraforming.
Yeah.
Although I would like, this one seems almost a little self-contradictory. Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Seeing it in its natural state rather than terraforming it. I get that part. But if I'm comparing it to the Thomas O. Paine one,
Thomas Paine's just makes
this
common
one and
sense.
the Thomas O. Paine one draw in actually all 3 draw in human, like Earthian plans for Mars. And I don't know that this one transcends that. I don't know.
I think you're right. I'm sorry, I got hung up on the joke I was trying to make. My bad.
Oh, I just missed it.
Oh, I just said I think Thomas Paine's flag makes common sense.
All right,
yeah.
I won't say I missed it then.
Okay.
Hey. But no, yeah.
Good work of satire.
I don't know. It does still didn't he say that the kind of upward chevron represents an upward pointing arrow symbolizing humanity's journey into space? So he says that in one sentence. And then later he's like, it should just be about Mars and not like human designs on what Mars should be. And I guess you can straddle that line in that we just have designs into space in that other sentence, but
perhaps. I mean,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't know if it can
me
check both
personally,
boxes at the same time.
as a lifelong fan of space stuff, and also a person that does believe in the conservation of the natural world as best as we can, I like the sentiment of representing, as it says, Mars in its natural state rather than what humans want to change it into, and coming back to billionaires running our space programs now instead of governments. It seems like the people that want to go to Mars do really want to change it and monetize it and do other disgusting things to a planet that, as of yet, has not been ruined by humanity and our worst vices the way that Earth has been for the entirety of the Anthropocene era.
Yeah.
Is that the right word for when humans have existed? I think.
Yeah, the
Anthropocene
people error, both.
Mm-hmm.
We done fucked up. We made people. All right, on to the next one. They're gonna, oh my god, in like, I swear to God, billions of years, they're gonna have podcasts. It's gonna be just two beardy white guys talking to each other about God knows what, flags or something, probably. Yeah, let's let's start over.
I like the sentiment of not ruining a second planet.
To come back to that, absolutely. I do agree with that. And showing it in its natural state, yeah, I think it does a much better job of doing that. I'll just touch on the fourth point here, actually, and then we'll go into the one after that. But its meaning doesn't depend on the order of its parts. I don't really even need to read all that one out. But basically, the other one was terraforming. So it's like, the burnt red orange to the green to the blue. This one doesn't quite have that. I will say, no, okay. Actually, when I was reading this earlier, they made a interesting point that they again kind of rebut later. The meaning of the flag comes from looking at the stripes from left to right, going from red to green to blue. If you speak a language that's written from right to left, such as Arabic or Hebrew, you'll read it in the opposite order, and the meaning will be reversed. Okay, no, in like the next sentence almost. Exploring Mars is an international endeavor, so everyone should be able to understand the flag's meaning. Additionally, one often sees a flag from behind, which would cause the same reversal of meaning in Lee's flag, but would not cause a problem with the new flag. Okay, agreed on it would not cause a problem with the new flag, because it's the same front and back. But I would argue, if you speak a language that goes right to left, Hebrew, Arabic, plenty, and, we're also talking about it flying the opposite direction. Okay, that's the direction it makes sense to you. Right. Swivel it completely around. That's the way it makes sense to people that do languages left to right. I don't know. Like,
you're saying that those people are backwards. I will not agree with you. I'm sorry. You're canceled now.
That's what they're saying. No, okay. I mean, that's what somebody else is saying.
Fair enough.
No, I just think it's weird to be like, okay, so like, if you speak Hebrew or Arabic, you're going to misinterpret it unless it's flown backwards, in which case everyone else is going to misinterpret it. It's like, okay, well, what are we even doing with tribands like at all then, or tricolors? Like,
I would like to argue as a sci-fi nerd that there are, I would say, potentially valid theories that Mars actually used to have an atmosphere and water and perhaps even foliage, vegetation,
the ice caps,
even life. I have no idea. So hey, maybe it was blue and green, and over time became rust red. It can work both ways. It can be we want to make it habitable again, and it can be a history of it it potentially used to be, and now it's not. Nah, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, you're right. They brought language into it, not you, not me, not
Right.
us. Like, yeah, that could go either way. All right, last point on this one, and it's basically a point to call out other flags and not really to bump their own up as much, but it does say, and when Nick and I were like kind of researching this a little bit and looking through just different Mars flags, it says many other proposals for flags of Mars focus on just one aspect of Mars, either the fact that it's the fourth planet from the sun or that it has 2 moons. Again, I think, the author of this, that the flag should represent more than that. Other flags are based on the astronomical symbol for Mars, which most viewers and listeners will know as the like broadly male sign, the circle with the arrow going up to the viewer's upper right. This is unsatisfactory for 2 reasons. First, the symbol doesn't relate to any feature of Mars, the planet, or of humanity's relationship with Mars. Instead, it's based on the shield and spear of the Roman god Mars. And second, this symbol is also used as, like I mentioned, the male symbol, which would lead to misinterpretation. So, yeah, Nick and I, we sent a few flags back and forth, and a lot of them had just this, what we broadly interpret as the male symbol on them. And I'm like, it can't be that.
I agree.
Like,
that's not doing it for me.
Because I mean, if for no other reason than it goes to what we've talked about a few times on this show of what you are trying to symbolize versus how everybody actually reads it. And so you could argue all day, like, no, this is the symbol for Mars. And that one you think is for women, that's the symbol for Venus. Mercury has a third one. And they're all, you can argue that until you're blue in the face, but like 90+% of people are just going to be like, oh, it's a flag for guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
before we began recording, called it the Austin Powers flag, just because he wore a giant one of those around his neck. Yeah. And that's the first thing that came to mind.
No, honestly, oh man, yeah, and it does tie into like, were they trying to? No, did they try to go to? I cannot remember the plot of those movies.
I don't believe any of the Austin Powers movies were about Mars.
They were launching a non-Jewish space laser. I do remember that.
Perhaps.
But other than that, yeah, I guess they didn't really attempt to go to Mars. Well, weird. Anyway, to close all of this out, and for the viewers, I'll have them all up on screen, and the listeners, they're in the show notes. Of the flags that we've talked about today, Nick, do you have a favorite, not just design-wise, but like a favorite to represent Mars?
You're not going to like this. I like the Thomas O. Paine.
Okay.
Even this current flag of Mars that we most recently discussed, the white with the chevron, says that the white is to represent the polar caps, more or less. Hold on,
the ice caps and our peaceful intentions.
Yeah, the ice, exactly, the ice. Yeah, so I speculated that was what you said looked like bites out of an apple or slices of a lemon out of the top and the bottom of the representation of Mars, and I said I think that might be just supposed to be frozen water. And apparently that's also what this white partially is supposed to represent on this current flag. I initially, when I looked at that flag, thought again that the star that represents our ambition to go beyond Mars and further into space, which I support, but I initially thought that's supposed to be the sun and it should be on the other side because it goes sun.
Yeah.
For at least from a heliocentric perspective, if you're into that sort of thing where you think that the Earth orbits the sun and not the other way around, it goes the sun and then the Earth and then Mars. And I was like, well, they shouldn't be on opposite sides. If Mars is in the middle, Earth shouldn't be over here on the hoist side, and the sun should. Yeah. But it's not representing the sun, so I'm wrong about that. But I'm not going to say it's not. I'm not going to say it's Sola.
I guess
I'm not going to say that it's the best design, or that it's the best representation. But it It was the one that made me the happiest, the one that made me think the most, the one that
Okay.
reminded me the most of other space iconography that I have enjoyed throughout my life, as referenced with the diagram on the Voyager probes. That's my personal favorite.
Gotcha.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, thank you for asking, Nick. I think out of the ones we both did and didn't get to, regardless of I don't think there's one I like more that we didn't get to. I'm gonna have to pick the Mario Mimoso one,
Okay.
which is weird for me, but only because I don't really love the who Oscar Pernefeld's Earth flag. I don't know why. I don't really love that Earth flag, but I do like this Mars flag. And yeah, no further questions, Your Honor. I guess. No, I don't know. Maybe it's something about a blue field. Maybe it's something about living here in the U.S. and so many of our state flags have a blue field with a white-ish thing in the middle that blah blah blah. And honestly, most of the Earth ones do too. It's tough to get an Earth flag. Shit. Do I like the Earth flag? Am I discovering that about myself right now? I don't know, man. I don't know. I will say it's maybe mostly aesthetics. It's probably mostly aesthetics, but I like the Mario Mimoso one the best. I think the second one to me would be Calder Hansen's. Doesn't do a lot for me, but I like it better than the others that we see here. So I don't know.
Fair enough.
So yeah, the Thomas O. Paine for you.
Yep.
The Mario Mimoso for me. God, almost sounds like those almost sound like drinks. Can I get a Thomas O. Paine? I don't have a Mario Mimoso.
For sure.
Anyway, okay, so the only thing we have time for left is plugs and our new special segment, which Nick is hearing about for the first time. This is called, let me check, Nick's Questions. Oh, so okay, so this one is for you, Nick.
Sweet.
There's no rules stated, so it seems like you just get to ask a question.
All right. I've got one.
Oh, okay.
Andy.
Sure.
Did you know that between Mars and Jupiter, there's a gap for another planet?
Hold on. No. Well, that was Nick's questions. I guess followed up by Andy's answers. These are we got some really good new segments here. Anyway. Okay, so after all those non-obvious edits that didn't happen just right here, we are ready to do some plugs and kind of fade this thing out. Kind of put it to bed, as it were.
Okay.
So, Nick, where can we find you, follow you, anything you want our eyes and ears on?
Oh, I live in Columbus, Ohio. You can find me there. I post on Twitter very rarely. That's about the only social media that I use.
Smart.
I don't remember what my Twitter handle is because I think it's !Nick.
Also smart.
And I do have a YouTube account where you can find the pilot episode of the Man Mission podcast. If you search, presumably Manned Mission podcast, or maybe also include my name, Nick Page, if that doesn't work. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
it'll be linked probably somewhere in the description of this, perhaps.
The links will be both in the description and for the viewers on screen as well. So, yes, go check out Manned Mission podcast. Nick has told me there is an episode 2 that is written. He's actually even sent me the script. I just haven't fucking read it yet.
It's funnier than I remember. I wrote it in 2020.
Well, we'll see about that when I'm done with it. But in any case, yes, definitely go check out any and all things Manned Mission. For anything related to my show, Flagged for Content, you can find us at the Linktree, which is just linktree.com/flagged for content, all spelled out. That has basically everything you need to know. How to join the Patreon, how to join the Discord, all that good stuff. We're having some good conversations over on both. So go ahead and join those. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got here.
Cool.
You know, I thought of so much this episode, but the one thing that I left out was how to end it. So, Nick, any and all ideas are welcome here.
Thank you for listening, and remember, if you see a flag waving, wave back. It's the polite thing to do.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye!
All right, and then we'll fade out on that. Flag for Content is proud to be sponsored by Flags for Good. Go to flagsforgood.com for more information. Flag for Content is hosted, produced, edited, occasionally written, and always nitpicked over by me, Andy Richardson. Catch y'all on the fly side, Vexheads.